Okay, you should be on your fourth absolute monarchs right here. You should write his name, Frederick the Great. So Frederick the Great is from the country of Prussia. So let's see where Prussia is on our map. It's right here, Prussia. Today that would be mostly in Poland, though a little bit of it is in Germany. So who was Frederick? Frederick was raised by a father who forced him to live by military discipline, and then he's going to end up being an officer in the military. He's famous for these great wars that he is going to wage against the neighboring country of Austria, which is another German-speaking country. And in the end, his army is going to be the best equipped and best trained army in Europe. And the result is today we use the same training techniques that he develops in the 1700s, and those are some of the techniques that we are going to use in the American Revolutionary War to help us beat the British as well. So he's considered a military genius. That's why he's known as the Great. And we're going to look at a short little video about him.
Frederick the Great, seen here, was one of the greatest revolutionaries of all time. As king of the German state of Prussia in the 1740s, he led an attack on the powerful Austro-Hungarian Empire, capturing the province of Silesia. In 1757, Frederick defended his new territory. He marched his army 200 miles in 16 days to fight Austrian soldiers near the town of Leuthen on the Polish border. Outnumbered 2 to 1, Frederick used a tactic that became his hallmark. He marched the Prussian soldiers toward the Austrian front, then wheeled them to the right under the cover of low hills. They reappeared suddenly to the left of the Austrian army, which was being hammered by Prussian artillery. The Austrians were crushed. From the Sanssouci Palace near Berlin, Germany, Frederick ruled his growing kingdom. The army he created was unmatched by any in Europe. Its secret was drill. Today, drill seems purely ceremonial. But men who could march precisely in time and change direction and speed as one on the parade ground could do so in battle. And on the 18th century battlefield, drill meant the difference between life and death. At Leuthen, Frederick had his troops change direction while hidden from the Austrians, then reappear where least expected. The drill practiced by Frederick is still used today. Frederick's tactics at Leuthen were a masterpiece of precise battlefield maneuvering, but they were achieved at a cost.
The tactics of 18th century gunpowder armies required men to perform drill in a very rigid and methodical way, and in a sense they had to be beaten into it. There's a famous phrase of Frederick's that a man must be more frightened of their officers than they are of the enemy, and I think Frederick's discipline was very severe indeed. He did literally flog his army.
With his ruthlessly disciplined army, Frederick took over Austria, Sweden, Russia, and France. Prussian aggression gave Britain the opportunity to attack her arch-rival, France. Britain joined the war on Prussia's side. A conflict that began in Europe now has spread worldwide. It would last 7 long years.
The 7 Years' War, 1756 to 63, is often described as the First World War, and it became one I think for two reasons. One was that the combatants, Britain and France particularly, had large enough fleets to project power to great distances. The sailing warship having become an enormously powerful instrument of strategic outreach.
Around the globe, on land, but most often at sea, wherever the British and French met each other, they fought. The key weapon was the warship. Equipped with cannon, it was the single most costly, powerful, and advanced weapon system of its day. These were floating fortresses. A single warship carried as much firepower as an entire army. Raged off India, Africa, and the Americas. But it was a dangerous game for the French. In a single year, the British captured 6,000 French sailors and 300 trading vessels. French ships were being sunk faster than France could build them. Expensive. In this long war of attrition, the ability to pay for new ships was almost as important as the battles themselves. Here, Britain had the advantage. As an island nation, almost its entire defense budget was spent on its navy. In addition, Britain also happened to be the wealthiest and most successful trading nation in Europe. By the mid-18th century, the British Royal Navy had built over 300 warships, worth $2.5 billion at today's prices. The French, with a large and costly land army to support, could simply not compete. The more ships Britain made, the more powerful it became, protecting trading interests, fighting off rivals, and claiming more colonies. British sea power was a partnership between government and business. The Bank of England was founded in 1694 to fund a war with the Dutch. In the 7 Years' War, France could not match the British ability to raise loans for the arms race. The British Navy won victory after victory over the French. By the end of the 7 Years' War, Britain had overwhelmed the French Navy. Prussia started, left Britain ruling the waves, poised to build an empire that would cover a quarter of the globe.
So, that's Frederick. He is a great military leader. Next guy we've got is Peter. So Peter is going to be King of Russia, Monarch of Russia. Russia's here. It's on the edge of Europe. It is the largest country today, the largest country in Europe, and the largest country in Asia. So when Peter took over, he is part of the Romanov family, which will be the last kings of Russia. And his goal was to take Russia from being an Asian empire and make it a Western empire. So his concept that he's really into is Westernization. So, what were his main achievements? Well, he leads a big territorial expansion. So, he starts with this little piece here. Oops, sorry. Or talked about he's westernized. And he builds a new capital city on the Baltic called St. Petersburg. So you might not, by looking at that map, didn't look like a huge amount of land, but what it did do is give the capital city access to the ocean, and he's going to build this new beautiful European-style capital city. Remember, he took that tour of all the European capitals, so this is actually Greek-style architecture, for example. The canal, the rivers look like the canals in Venice with these bridges. So he is going out of his way to make the new capital of Russia look European or Western. And then he's going to build a big military so that Russia is not just a westernized European nation, but it's also a major military power. Which is going to lead us to Catherine the Great. So Catherine was actually a German princess who was going to marry into Peter's family. So Peter the Third was her husband. Peter the Great is Peter the First. So she marries Peter the Third. He ends up being, basically insane. And she is going to help lead a coup to get Peter III out of power, and during that he's actually killed, and she ends up becoming the queen of, or empress of Russia. So let's take a look at the map. Right here again is Russia. So Catherine was one of the most successful European monarchs we ever see. She's going to take all of Peter's ideas, so westernization and military expansion in particular, and continue to focus on making Russia a European power. So one of the things that happens is if you are in the court or the palaces in Russia, they're speaking French to each other. They're not speaking Russia because most of the kings and queens in Europe would speak French in their palaces and castles. So one of her big achievements, besides westernization, is she's actually going to add 200,000 square miles to the country of Russia. So we saw Peter add some land. She's actually going to add more, 200,000 square miles. So those, I believe, that is our last monarch, and then we've just got a couple other things to cover. And here are the things she does, which we've already covered. There is the land. You can see what's added here. She brings the Enlightenment ideas, which we are about to cover. All of the Enlightenment thinkers, so you'll see that. But basically they're the ideas that found the country of the United States of America and lead to the French Revolution. Things like all people are born with natural rights. And this is the important part. What was the impact? After her and Peter, Russia's a major military power. They're going to be involved in basically all European affairs. Russia's going to become a big empire, and the social policies, in about 100 years we're going to see a very famous revolution in Russia which gets rid of Peter and Catherine's family, the Romanovs. But Russia's going to look European on the outside, but actually on the inside they're still very different. They're half Asian, half European, so they're not really like the other Western European countries.